My parents didn't just lose my twin sister. They tried to erase her and pretend someone else could take her place. That's when I knew I had to uncover the truth and get out before it was too late. Katie and I were inseparable, like day and night, different but always connected. On days when I couldn't bring myself to eat, she'd quietly leave a bowl of strawberries with melted chocolate by my bed. She just knew what I needed without a word. No one ever understood me like she did. One afternoon, we were in the car with our parents, singing along to Girls Just Want to Have Fun, when another vehicle suddenly swerved toward us. My mom froze, but Katie didn't. Even though she wasn't buckled in, she reached across to fasten my seatbelt instead. And then, the crash happened. 8 days later, I stood at her funeral in a black dress I hadn't even taken the tags off. I couldn't bring myself to stop setting her place at the table. When the loneliness felt unbearable, I'd go into her room, spray her favorite vanilla body mist into the air, and pretend she was still nearby, listening to me, holding me, comforting me while I cried. But exactly 1 year later, my parents told me Katie was back. Only it wasn't her. It was Michaela, a bubbly 14-year-old with strawberry blonde hair and a bright smile, who was actually 3 months older than me. She was friendly, sweet, always laughing, but she wasn't Katie. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pretend she was. While my parents laughed with Michaela downstairs, playing games and chatting like everything was normal, I locked myself in my room. Noise-canceling headphones, the same 5 Sam Smith songs on loop, and silent tears became my daily routine. Some nights, I'd scroll through Katie's old playlists, reading the lyrics she once loved, trying to feel close to her again. Eventually, my parents removed every trace of Katie from the house. Her pictures? Gone. Her name? Untouched, like it could break something just by being spoken. If I brought her up, they'd look at me like I was the problem, as if I was keeping the pain alive. The more they bonded with Michaela, the more invisible I became. No more family nights. No more invitations. Just popcorn popping and Michaela's voice echoing from downstairs while I cried into my pillow. The only one who noticed was Nyla, my orange cat. She'd curl up on my chest until the panic passed. She was the only soul who stayed with me through those long, hollow nights. There were nights I wouldn't have made it through without her. So when I woke up one morning and she was gone, I panicked. I checked every hiding spot. Under the bed, the laundry room, everywhere. Then my parents told me casually over breakfast, "Oh, Michaela's allergic, we had to put her down." Just like that. I didn't even have the strength to fight. I just climbed into Katie's bed and cried into her old pillow. And that's when I found it, tucked behind a stack of books. A pink leather notebook I'd never seen before. Her journal. At first it was full of the usual. Boys she had a crush on, rants about school. But then, it shifted. She wrote about our parents. About how they took out their anger on her when I wasn't around. About how she faked smiles to keep me from worrying. And then I reached her last entry. Words that made my heart stop. She wrote that our father had hit her again. That she finally snapped, shouted that they were terrible parents. And then she described the chilling words my mother said next. "Maybe it's time you learned how fragile life really is." And that was the final page. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why she'd been so fast to protect me that day in the car. And why my parents moved on from her so easily. Because maybe they already knew she wouldn't be around much longer. She didn't just save me from that crash. Katie was saving me from them. I sat there frozen, clutching the diary with trembling hands, trying to process what I had just read. The truth hit me like a second collision. The car crash hadn't been an accident. My parents had planned it. They weren't just grieving. They had been trying to silence Katie. For good. Suddenly, all those little memories I'd pushed aside came rushing back. The way Katie would flinch around them. How she always stepped in first during arguments. How she insisted on being the one to handle things when something went wrong. She had been shielding me. I just hadn't realized it at the time. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs and quickly shoved the diary under her mattress. My mom popped her head into the room with a forced smile. "Dinner's ready." Michaela made lasagna. Her eyes looked emptier than I'd ever noticed before. Cold and unreadable. As soon as she left, I pulled the diary back out and began snapping pictures of the pages with my phone. My hands were shaking so badly, most of them turned out blurry. But I kept going until I had clear images of the pages that mattered. I needed something. Anything. Because now, I was afraid I might be next. The next morning at breakfast, I watched them carefully. My parents laughed along with Michaela as she joked about something that happened in science class, like everything was perfectly normal. Meanwhile, I couldn't even swallow my toast. "You should eat something," my dad said casually. "You're getting too thin." His voice was warm, concerned even. But now I knew what was behind it. I couldn't even look at him, only at his hands, wrapped around a coffee mug. The same hands Katie wrote about. I forced down a few bites, just enough to keep them from asking more questions. Then I went back upstairs, desperate to read more. But when I reached under the mattress, the diary was gone. Panic hit like a wave. I ripped the room apart. Sheets, drawers, under the bed. Nothing. When I confronted Michaela, she just shrugged and said, maybe Mom took it while cleaning. But that was a lie. No one cleaned Katie's room. No one but me even went in there. I still had the pictures. Or so I thought. That night, unable to sleep, I opened my gallery to review the photos and froze. They were gone. Not just the diary pages, every photo I had taken over the last year. The pictures of me and Katie. Gone, as if she never existed. Someone had deleted them, and I was pretty sure I knew who. The next morning, I caught Michaela in the bathroom doing her makeup. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I just waited until she looked at me. And then she said, calm as ever, "They think it's unhealthy. The way you hold on to Katie. They want you to move on." That was it. That's all I needed to hear. As soon as she walked out, I grabbed my backpack and left early, walking to school instead of taking the bus. I needed time to think, without her shadow following me. All morning, I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to the diary, the photos, how they were slowly erasing Katie, and maybe preparing to erase me too. During free period, I rushed to the computer lab, created a brand new email account with a completely random name and password. Then I wrote down everything I remembered from the diary, every incident, every phrase, every chilling word. I sent the file to myself and deleted the sent email, so no one would know it existed. It wasn't as good as having the diary itself, but it was something. A start. When I got home that afternoon, they were waiting. My parents, Michaela, all seated in the living room like they had rehearsed this moment. My dad's voice was calm, but I saw the tension behind his eyes. "We need to talk about your behavior." And I knew the game had just changed. Michaela looked me straight in the eye. "They told me you've been saying some really serious things about them." I glanced at her. She dropped her gaze immediately, just like I expected. She had told them everything. "I didn't accuse anyone," I said, keeping my voice even. "I just asked about Katie's diary." My mom's face hardened. "There is no diary. You're imagining things again." Again? My hands started to tremble, so I shoved them into my pockets. My dad stepped in. "We're concerned. You've been isolating, barely eating, still talking like Katie's here. And now these accusations? We think it's time you talk to someone. A professional." I knew exactly what they meant, and what they were trying to do. They wanted to paint me as unstable, just like, I now suspected, they had once tried with Katie. "I'm fine," I said, quietly but firmly. "I just miss my sister." "It's been over a year," my mom snapped. "It's time to move on. Michaela is your sister now." I turned to Michaela. She gave me a small, satisfied smile, like she had won something, but she would never be my sister. "I've got homework," I mumbled, and walked upstairs. No one stopped me. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep before sneaking into Michaela's room. I had to find that diary. I searched everywhere, her drawers, her backpack, under the bed. Nothing. Then I noticed the trash can. Inside, ripped into dozens of pieces, were the pages of Katie's diary. My heart sank. I carefully collected every scrap and brought them back to my room, trying for hours to piece the fragments back together. But there were too many gaps, too many missing lines. The words that remained didn't make sense. I sat on my bed, crushed, wishing more than anything that Nyla, my cat, was still here. She would have curled up next to me until I could breathe again. The next morning, Michaela was cheerier than usual. "I made pancakes for everyone," she said, dropping a plate in front of me. I stared at the food, suddenly unsure whether I could trust anything she handed me. "Eat up," my dad added, not as a suggestion, but a command. I forced myself to take a small bite. It tasted fine, but that uneasy feeling wouldn't go away. Later that day, I went looking for someone I could trust. Mrs. Peterson, An old family friend and one of the English teachers at school used to be close with us before Katie passed. I knew she had a free period after lunch, so I found her in her classroom, quietly grading papers. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Well, this is a surprise. How are you, sweetheart?" I hesitated. Then I told her the truth. "Not great. I found something that belonged to Katie. And now it's gone." Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" "Her diary," I said softly. "It was in her room, but now it's gone. Someone ripped it up." She set her pen down. "What did it say?" I took a breath. "She wrote that our parents were hurting her. That they said something threatening right before the crash." Mrs. Peterson's face went pale. She didn't speak for a few seconds. "That's a very serious claim," she said finally. "I know," I whispered. "But I swear it's true." And now they've brought Michaela into the picture, and it feels like they're trying to erase Katie entirely. They even had my cat put down because Michaela said she was allergic. She was silent for a long moment. Then, "Have they ever laid a hand on you?" I shook my head. "No, Katie always made sure they took it out on her instead. She protected me." Mrs. Peterson stood up and gently closed the classroom door. "Tell me everything. Start from the beginning." So I did. The diary, the missing photos, the confrontation, the shredded pages in the trash, the attempts to convince others that I wasn't thinking clearly, the complete removal of anything that reminded me of my sister. When I finished, the bell had already rung for the next period. She quickly wrote me a late pass and pressed it into my hand. "I believe you," she said. Those words nearly broke me. For the first time in weeks, someone believed me. "But we'll need more. Without that diary, it's your word against theirs. Do you have a phone they can't access?" I nodded. "They don't know the passcode." "Good. Start documenting everything. If they say something odd, record it. Take pictures. Keep backups in places they can't reach. And whatever you do, don't confront them directly. Be careful." I promised I would. And for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. But that flicker nearly vanished when I came home. Michaela was in my room, sitting on my bed, flipping through one of my notebooks. I froze in the doorway. "What are you doing?" She looked up with zero shame. "Just checking something. Your mom asked me to look in on you. She's worried about your mental state." I snatched the notebook from her hands. "Get out." Michaela stood slowly, as if she owned the place, and I knew this wasn't over. It was just beginning. "They warned me you might be difficult," Michaela said casually, as if it were no big deal. "That you never really accepted Katie was gone. But I didn't realize just how bad it was." "I have accepted it," I said, jaw clenched. "What I haven't accepted is how fast everyone moved on. Or how conveniently it happened right after our parents threatened her." For a split second, something flickered in Michaela's eyes. Guilt? Fear? But it vanished just as quickly. She tilted her head and smirked. "You should watch what you say," she said coolly. "They're already talking about sending you to one of those schools for teens with issues." My stomach dropped. "Somewhere you can get the help you clearly need," she added, making air quotes around the word help. "Personally, I think it's a great idea. This house would be so much quieter without your constant drama." Then she just walked out, leaving me frozen in place. First Katie, then Nyla. Now me? That night, I knew I had to act fast. During dinner, I hid my phone in the front pocket of my hoodie, recording everything in the hopes of capturing something, anything, that would prove what they were planning. The atmosphere at the table was thick. My parents kept exchanging those quiet glances, and Michaela couldn't stop smirking at me from across the room. "Not hungry again?" my mom asked, her voice too sweet to be sincere. "I had a big lunch," I lied. "You need to eat," my dad chimed in, "especially with everything that's coming up." I looked up, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" They exchanged one of those looks again. My mom finally said, "We've been talking, and we think it might be good for you to attend a school where you can get the right support." "A special school," I repeated flatly. "You mean a facility?" "It's not like that," my dad said quickly. "It's a place for teens dealing with grief, stress, other things." "What other things?" I demanded. "Well, for starters," my mom snapped, "these wild accusations, your refusal to accept what happened, this obsession with blaming us." My reality, I said, voice rising, is that Katie died in a crash that didn't feel like an accident. My reality is that you threatened her. And now you're pretending she never existed while trying to replace her with... I pointed directly at Michaela. Her! Michaela gasped in exaggerated horror. See? She said to my parents. She's been like this for weeks! My dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough! You will not speak to your sister like that! She's not my sister! I shouted. Katie was! Katie! The girl you ignored! The girl you mistreated! Silence. Sharp. Cold. My mom had gone pale, and my dad's face turned red with fury. Michaela looked from one to the other, clearly unsettled. Go to your room, my dad said through gritted teeth. I shoved my chair back, knocking it over. Gladly. But don't think this is the end of it. I stormed upstairs, heart hammering, hands shaking. I had said too much, but at least I'd gotten it on tape. Or so I thought. When I played back the recording, my heart sank. The audio was too muffled. Voices blurred together. Nothing clear enough to prove a thing. I deleted it and collapsed onto my bed. I was running out of time. The next day was Saturday. I was stuck in the house with all of them. My parents acted like everything was normal, but the tension was thick. Michaela kept throwing me these smug little looks whenever their backs were turned. I stayed in my room most of the day trying to come up with a plan. Around noon, there was a knock on my door. I braced myself, expecting the worst. But it was my mom. Can we talk? She asked softly. Her tone was different, almost gentle. I nodded slowly. She sat on the edge of my bed. I know it's been hard since Katie passed, she began. And I know we haven't always handled things well. I stared at her, not saying a word. But we do love you, she said. We just want to help you. The school we're looking into, it's a good place. They help people work through their grief, safely. I don't need help, I said. I need people to listen, to believe me. She sighed. Believe what? That we were somehow responsible for the accident? I read her journal, I interrupted. She wrote it all down. Her expression changed instantly. This imaginary diary again? She said sharply. The one you conveniently can't find because Michaela supposedly destroyed it? She stood up. Her voice was cool now. This is what I mean. These ideas. This paranoia. It's not healthy. It's not paranoia, I said, but even I heard the shakiness in my voice. We've made an appointment, she said. You'll speak to someone on Monday, a professional. If it goes well, we won't need to pursue other options. Then she walked out. I sat there on my bed, heart heavy with dread. They were going to make everyone think I was unstable. And if they did, no one would believe a word I said. I needed real proof, and I needed it fast. I needed proof, real proof, and I needed it now. All day, I searched the house, quietly, methodically, whenever no one was watching. I checked my parents' room, the office, the garage. Nothing. No trace of Katie's diary. No hidden files, no letters, no photos. Just empty drawers and locked cabinets that refused to give up their secrets. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about Monday, about what they might do. Would they isolate me? Say I was unstable? Make me vanish the way Katie and Nyla had? Around midnight, a soft knock tapped against my door. I froze. Then I heard her voice. I know you're awake, Michaela whispered. Let me in. Please! I hesitated, then cracked the door open. Her usual smugness was gone, replaced by something I never thought I'd see on her face. Fear. She sat in my desk chair, twisting her fingers. I heard them talking, she said softly. About Monday, about the psychiatrist. So what? I asked bitterly. You got what you wanted. They're going to send me away. That's not what I wanted, she said quickly. Not really. I stared at her, confused. You've been on their side this entire time. I know, she whispered, eyes shining. But I didn't know who they really were when I moved in. They seemed so perfect. Like the kind of parents I always wished I had. And now? I asked. Now I'm scared, she admitted. The way they talk about you when you're not there. It's not right. And I found something. My heart skipped a beat. What? She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a small USB drive. I was looking for my charger in your dad's office and found this. It was locked in a drawer. The key was hidden inside one of those fake books. What's on it? I asked, taking the drive. Videos, she said quietly. Of Katie. Of them yelling at her. Worse. I only watched one. I couldn't keep going. I stared at the drive, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. Part of me didn't want to know what was on it. But I had to. This was it. This was the proof I'd been begging the universe for. Why now? I asked, my voice low. Why help me after everything? Because I finally saw it, she said, staring at the floor. They're doing the same thing to you. And once they're done with you, they'll do it to me too. I'm not their daughter, I'm just the placeholder. She didn't have to say more. We both knew what that meant. We need to leave, I said. Both of us. Tomorrow night. Before anything else happens. She nodded. I've got a little money saved. Enough for bus tickets. Maybe we could go to my old foster mom's place. She was kind. She might help us. I wasn't sure if I could trust Michaela completely, but I had no other choice. Not now. And if she was telling the truth about the USB, then we finally had what we needed to make them answer for what they'd done. Tomorrow night, I said. After they go to bed. Michaela nodded and stood to leave. At the door, she paused. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. I didn't know. After she left, I plugged the drive into my laptop. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. Dozens of files, each one labeled by date. The most recent was from just a week before the crash. I clicked it. The screen lit up with an image of Katie in her room, crying. My dad was in the frame, pacing and shouting. I couldn't finish watching. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart pounding. But now I had it. Proof. I backed up the files to a secure cloud account and saved them to a hidden folder on my computer. Then I tucked the USB drive deep under my mattress. Tomorrow, we'd be gone. The next day felt endless. My parents were acting overly sweet, which only made me more suspicious. Michaela played along, smiling, nodding, laughing at their stories, but every time they turned away, her face hardened. That evening, my mom announced dinner with a wide smile. Spaghetti and meatballs, your favorite. I stared at the plate. The smell made me queasy. You need to eat, my dad said pointedly. You've got a big day tomorrow. His tone made my skin crawl. What exactly was planned for this psychiatrist appointment? I'm not hungry, I said quietly. Just a few bites, my mom urged, setting her fork down. To avoid suspicion, I took a small bite, but the taste was off. The sauce was bitter. Too bitter. When no one was looking, I slipped the bite back onto my plate and pushed it away. I think I'm coming down with something, I said. I'm going to lie down. They exchanged a look, but said nothing. I'll bring you some tea, my mom offered. No thanks. I just need sleep. Back in my room, I locked the door and immediately texted Michaela. Don't eat the food. I think something's wrong with it. She replied a minute later. Too late. I feel dizzy. My heart dropped. She wasn't coming. Not tonight. Which meant I had to go on my own. I packed quickly. Just the essentials. Clothes, my toothbrush, the USB drive, what little cash I had. Then I waited in the dark, barely breathing, ears tuned to every creak in the house. Around 10 p.m., I heard footsteps, my parents heading upstairs, a knock on my door. Feeling any better? My mom asked softly. A little, I said. I'm just going to sleep. Okay, sweetie. We'll check on you in the morning. I waited. 1 hour. Then 2. Until the house was silent. It was time. The house was completely still. I slowly turned the lock on my bedroom door and opened it just a crack. The hallway was dark. No sounds, no creaking floorboards. Nothing. Step by careful step, I made my way to Michaela's room and pushed the door open. She was lying on top of the covers, still in her clothes, her breathing deep and uneven. I tried to wake her, gently at first, then more urgently, but she only mumbled and rolled over. Whatever they had slipped into the food had worked. She was completely out. I didn't want to leave her behind. Not after everything she'd told me. Not after she'd tried to help. But I had no choice. I left a note on her nightstand. I had to go. The USB has the proof. Get it to the police if I don't make it. Then I slipped out of her room, careful to avoid every step that creaked. The house felt like it was holding its breath. I reached the front door and quietly started turning the lock, when the living room light flicked on behind me. Going somewhere? My dad asked. I spun around. He was sitting calmly in the armchair, glass in hand. No surprise on his face. Just waiting. I was just running away, he said, standing slowly. After everything we've done for you? I backed into the door, my heart hammering. What exactly have you done? You erased Katie. You tried to replace her with someone new. We gave you the perfect home, he snapped. A fresh start, a new sister. And this is how you thank us? Katie was perfect, I said through clenched teeth. And you hurt her. She was weak, he said. She couldn't follow the rules. She challenged us. But you were the obedient one, the easy one, until now. He took a step toward me. My fingers fumbled behind my back, searching for the door handle. Don't come any closer. You're not going anywhere, he said, especially not with that USB drive. You think we don't know? My blood turned cold. Michaela told us everything, he said smoothly. Your little escape plan, the files, the accusations. Had Michaela turned on me again? Or had they forced it out of her after she lost consciousness? Either way, they knew. And I was cornered. It doesn't matter, I said, trying to sound confident. I already sent the videos to other people. If anything happens to me, they'll know where to go. It was a lie, but a convincing one. He narrowed his eyes. You're bluffing. Maybe, I said. Are you willing to take that risk? We stared at each other. Then he lunged. He grabbed my arm and I screamed, kicking out hard. I broke free and bolted into the kitchen, yanking open drawers, looking for anything I could use. My dad charged after me, rage twisting his face. You ungrateful little brat, he growled. After everything we gave you, I grabbed a kitchen knife and held it out between us. Don't come any closer, I said, my voice shaking. I mean it. He laughed, a low, bitter sound. You won't do anything. You're not like her. Katie had fight. You're just a scared little copy. I'm not Katie, I said, but I will protect myself. He stepped forward. I slashed the knife through the air. He jerked back in surprise, more stunned than hurt. Footsteps pounded on the stairs. My mom appeared in the doorway, her face pale. What's going on? She threatened me, my dad said coolly. She tried to run. Look at her, knife in hand. My mom looked at me, at the trembling hand holding the blade. Put that down, she said, now. No, I said, standing my ground. Not until you admit what you did. We didn't do anything to Katie, she said, her voice sharp now. It was a tragic accident, one you survived because of her. She didn't just save me from the crash, I said. She saved me from you. She knew what was coming. You're imagining things, my mom snapped. You need help. I need the truth. I've seen the videos. I know. They both froze. What videos? My dad asked, too casually. The ones on the USB, I said. The ones that show what you really did. You hurt Katie. My mom's expression went cold. There are no videos, she said tightly. There never were. This is just another one of your fantasies. But I saw it. A flicker in her eyes. Not anger, fear. She was lying. I've already sent the footage to Mrs. Peterson, I said calmly. She has everything. Katie's journal entries, the videos, all of it. My mom's face drained of color. You're lying. Then call her, I challenged. Or, better yet, call the police. I'm sure they'd love to see what's on that drive. My dad took a step toward me, but my mom quickly grabbed his arm. Wait, she said under her breath. We need to think about this. There's nothing to think about, he snapped. She's bluffing. And if she's not, my mom whispered, what if someone really has the files? They were nervous, truly nervous, and I wasn't about to waste that moment. Here's the deal, I said. Let me go. Don't try to stop me. Don't try to have me committed. Let me stay with Mrs. Peterson. And those videos? They stay private. They stared at each other for a long moment, some silent agreement passing between them. Fine, my mom said. Go, my dad added. But if those files ever go public, you'll regret it. I backed slowly toward the front door, keeping the knife up between us. If anything happens to Michaela or anyone else, I warned, the videos go straight to the police. I fumbled with the lock, never breaking eye contact. They stood frozen in the hallway, watching me leave with eyes like glass. I stepped outside. Then I ran. all the way to Mrs. Peterson's house. It was nearly 1 a.m. when I rang the bell, breathless and shaking. She opened the door in a bathrobe, alarm written across her face. "What's going on?" She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the fear on mine. "Come in, quickly." I collapsed onto her couch, still clutching the knife. Her eyes widened, but she didn't pull away. "Tell me everything." Between gasps and tears, I did. The drugged food, Michaela's note, the USB, the confrontation, everything. She listened, then quietly took the USB and plugged it into her laptop. We watched just one video together. That was enough. By the end of it, Mrs. Peterson was crying too. She pulled me into a hug and whispered, "You're safe now. I promise. They won't hurt you again." The next morning, she called the police. I gave my full statement and handed over the USB. They assured me they'd check on Michaela immediately, and they did. She was still unconscious when they arrived, and they rushed her to the hospital. It turns out Michaela hadn't betrayed me after all. My parents had found the USB missing and panicked. They'd drugged us both at dinner. I hadn't eaten enough for it to take effect, but Michaela had. When she woke up in the hospital, she told the truth. Everything. How she found the USB. How she tried to help me escape. How my parents manipulated her from the very beginning, promising her a dream family if she just played along. With her testimony and the video evidence, my parents were arrested, and the investigation uncovered the most devastating truth of all. The crash hadn't been an accident. My dad had tampered with the brakes, expecting both Katie and me to be in that car. Katie's quick thinking saved my life, even as it cost her her own. Michaela and I both went into foster care. We kept in touch. She apologized, truly, and explained she hadn't realized what they were capable of until it was almost too late. As for me, I finally had the chance to grieve my sister. Every week I visit Katie's grave with her favorite flowers. I tell her about my day, about school, about how I'm doing. The police help me recover her diary, page by page from the torn pieces, and I keep it close. On the hardest nights, I read it. And sometimes when the world feels too heavy, I swear I can still feel her with me, like a hand on my shoulder, a voice in my ear, telling me, "You made it, you're going to be okay." And for the first time in a long time, I believe her.